up, y'all? Happy Friday. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Jay. What's going on? Happy Friday. Oh, my guest is here? Did you guys listen to this week's episode? It's a good one. Why is this not working? Did you guys listen? I mean, watch, listen? Fire episode, thank you. Is my guest in here? Oh. Hey. Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm glad it's Friday, so.
The episode.
Yes, the episode.
What are your thoughts about it after hearing it back?
I enjoy talking with you. Sometimes I get in my head, I'm like, like I said, I'm used to hosting the show
Mm-hmm.
and having to be ready with questions. So I'm like, did I go too long? And did I let you get questions in that you wanted to get in? So that always, I'm always, I guess, fellow podcaster, you think about those things, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed talking with you. So I'm grateful that you had me on as a guest. I'm grateful you took a chance on me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm grateful that you even wanted to be on my show. That was, exciting.
No, of course, of course, of course.
So, what's up, everybody that's coming in? Happy Friday. What you drinking?
I'm about to ask you. I got this IPA,
Love
um,
IPA.
Sly Fox. Not too bad.
Okay.
6%. Volpolin is the company. Brewed in PA. And so I got the Eagles, the Sixers stuff. I know you're Jersey, so I was like,
Yeah.
I'm making sure I'm repping Philly today.
Okay. I should have had some beer, but I'm drinking. I didn't try it yet. I figured I'd have it my first time on camera. The 19 Crimes.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
Yeah. I love wine.
Okay. I'm getting more and more into wine. When I was younger, it was just a beer but now I'm trying it out more. I'm enjoying it a little bit more. I'm still a rookie. I'm not going to say I'm an expert. I'm still a rookie when it comes to it, but.
Okay. So if you ever need some recommendations, let me know. I'm your girl.
Okay.
I
All right.
drink wine like I drink water. So,
No, I
oh,
will.
the
I
Eagles
will.
fan in here? Okay.
Okay. That's right. That's right.
Okay, this isn't bad. It needs more liquor, but okay. Well,
Is
alcohol.
it sweet or like bitter? Like what kind of?
It's like in the middle.
Okay. You like sweeter wines or you like
Yeah,
more?
I like sweet reds for the most part.
Okay. That's what I've liked so far. I've liked more of the sweeter wines.
Hmm.
And definitely red. Not white isn't for me.
Me either. I took a bargain with this rosé. I mean, I wanted to try it. It's okay, but I don't think I would buy it again.
So let me ask you, what did you think of the episode, Miss
I
Danny?
enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed editing it, which wasn't too much. And because you have a platform, like you have the conversation with someone, and then when you actually listen back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, wow, we touched on some good things here.
Yeah.
And I've been getting some feedback for sure.
Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or I mean I'm glad for you it's good, but I don't know for me if it was good or bad feedback.
Oh no, it wasn't bad at all. What's up,
Okay.
stylist? AKT. Sorry, I wear glasses. I don't have them on. But yeah, I enjoyed it very much. That was my first episode with a conversation like that. I had to do a little bit of research, which was fun. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Um, Session wrestling.
Yeah. Which
I
go
I'm
ahead, sorry.
noticing that people really have no idea what that is.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Calm Soul Int? What's the topic? This week's episode featuring Mr. D Rock.
Hey, what's going on?
So yeah, it's I'm quite intrigued. Like I found myself like trying to go on YouTube and find some videos.
Yeah, and that's not the only I've met with dominatrixes before. I've done like the bondage, um, done like some spanking stuff. So, but session wrestling is probably my favorite. I gotta say.
Okay. So someone had asked me, drop your questions also in the box. Drop your questions for myself and D Rod. Drop them in the box so I can put them on the screen. So I know someone had asked me what I don't want to mess up the question, but they were basically asking like, how do you get pleasure out of that if it's not actually any
Sex?
sex involved? Like,
Yeah, no, I understand. I get that question a lot. Like, my brother, when I first told him years ago, he was had the same one. He's like, I don't understand how you can do that and not have sex. And don't get me wrong, and it's not like a brag or not. I have had sex through that with like non session wrestlers, just people, I'm cool with, and we're friends with benefits and hooking up. People I've dated, excuse me, and also a couple times through session wrestling, like some of the session wrestlers it's happened with. Yeah. Um, I always tell people I could not do either the session wrestling. I've done the dominatrix things a couple times. I couldn't do it if like the pressure was on to have sex. To me, it's just a shared connection. It's a shared bond that like you're having. And for me, it's that, and I get it because it is like two bodies rubbing close together. The session wrestler is usually in like a bathing suit, sometimes topless. Like I understand why people ask that, but it's just that kind of connection, and it's just that it's that self-control you have and
Mm-hmm.
self-respect for yourself and for that person, that we're trying to have this connection, this moment here, and I'm not trying to sully it. People have boundary, so that's always gone over before. When like I've paid like to do session wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone over that way before. Like what the boundaries are and what they don't like accept. You can go on like to the website and see all that. So to me, it's just that connection. It's that intimacy, and it's that you're fully expressing something that really is, at least for me back in the past, something that I couldn't share with anyone else. And I'm getting to like those are the things that come into my mind first. It's like, man, I'm expressing myself in a way that for so long I've just kept to myself. So long I haven't been able to. I've just been, watching videos or having my imagination, like, and now like this person I can connect with. And a lot of times they're asking questions like, how'd you get into it? But I'm asking them. That's where the podcast, like, I kind of been doing that for like years before, when I would talk to like certain session wrestlers. Like, it's a bond of like, well, how did you get into this journey of being a session wrestler and getting into like this industry, and to BDSM for some of them too, as well. And we kind of connect on feeling like we kind of felt like outliers and outsiders a lot of times through that.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's a much better connect. Why would I want to sully that with just having like just going in there trying to have sex, when I can have that real connection with somebody that I've been longing for? If you really are into that kink or whatever, when you find someone else who shares it, like I don't know. For me, like, why would I want to just ruin that by just trying to be selfish, when like, hey, I can build a connection here with this person, at least for that moment. Or a lot of times for me, it goes even throughout the year, but a lot of times they travel like to different areas. So then they come back and want to, hey, are you down to a session? Like, they'll ask me before I see it, and then
Wow.
gone out to eat with it. Like, it's really cool to have that. Like, so I get why people ask that, but if you have a kink, then to me, I think like you understand why, like you don't,
Okay. So someone asked, explain session wrestling to me.
Sure. Session wrestling is a kink where uh, there's women who you can watch like videos and stuff too on like Clips for Sale, but there's certain websites that you see when like these session wrestlers, that's what they're called, are coming like to a town near you, or they might already be in your town. And what it is, it's like a session. You email about like how long you want to, like, if it's an hour or 2 hours, hour and a half, however long. And it's really kind of this thing of like a mixed like wrestling kind of a thing, but it's not like, there are some who do like full on competitive, but most don't do that. It's really like a semi competitive or a fantasy kind of matchup, where the session wrestler is kind of getting on top of you and putting you in different holds and stuff like that. There's like, you can do role play, you can do different fantasies, you can do lift and carry, which is where, now that's my favorite, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm different, where I like to lift the session wrestler, but a lot of guys like to be lifted, and you get picked up in different lifts and stuff like that. Um, there's oil, you can do oil kind of wrestling, and it's really just that it's really like, I tell people all the time, it's a little more like production value than, I'm sure, I don't put words in your mouth, Danny. Maybe you've done it like with like a boyfriend, or like you see couples like who play wrestle, like have fun. It's not like serious, like trying to like, hurt somebody or put you in like bad holds or anything like that. It's just kind of like a playful, and it is like a sensual aspect to it. That's why a lot of times they're in bathing suits, or you can request different outfits and stuff like that. But it's not sex. Like, there's not like supposed to be like sex involved in it. If that's a
So
good, hope I answered it well.
absolutely. And thank you for answering it again, because I'm assuming that person didn't listen to the episode, because I know you explained it there. But so that in turn gives some type of like turn on? Like, is it like a preset to, you know, some sexual activity? Is that the way it works, or is it just
Not
like?
not when I do, not with session wrestling. Now in my personal life with people I've dated, yeah, that's happened. Um, but in session wrestling, no. It's. I'll tell you how. So like, all right, I'll give you like a scenario. Um, I see. I'll make up a name. So it's Mary Smith. She might go by like Crusher. Let's go by that, like Crusher.
Mhm.
She's coming to like the Philly area these dates. So I'll email, hey, say who I am, look into session with you when you come in the city, and I might now you can read on her website, or sometimes just if you don't see anything on there, you'll ask like, hey, like, can I do like some lift and carry, where like, and I'll tell them like I like to pick the session wrestler up. Usually they pick up the client, but I'm like, I like to pick up the session wrestler, and then could we do like some oil wrestling? And now they have that right. And that's the thing, is always consent. Like sometimes I've asked about oil wrestling, and they said no because they don't have an outfit that fits oil wrestling. You know, they're worried like that bathing suit will get wrecked with, because you know oil gets messy. So
Right.
like they don't have that outfit, or like the hotel room that's set up is not like conducive for it. And I would say okay, but sometimes they're like, yeah, if you bring like the oil and like something to cover up like the mat with, we can do that. So then I'll go to the hotel on that scheduled night. The biggest thing that session wrestlers don't like is time wasters or people who don't show up. That's why when I first started doing it, not everyone would ask for a deposit beforehand. Now
Mhm.
it's a little bit better where which is good for them, like asking for a deposit, because you spend that time emailing, going back and forth with somebody, and you know it's a business. Like you know, we have to, because so much is involved that people don't talk about that they have to do. So then, like they do all that, and then for someone not to show, that's like, hey, someone could book 2 hours. That's 2 hours that they could have given to someone, another paying client,
Mhm.
that is wasted. So time wasters is like the biggest thing. That's the biggest way to be like kind of thrown out there and blacklisted, being like, don't, this guy emails you, don't answer because he just likes to waste time and he's not serious. So like, so you get there on time. I always, you know, I always get there like a little early, just so like, I guess in my own way, like even though like now we do the deposits earlier, like letting them know, like I always say like, hey, no pressure, like take your time, let you know I'm here, so that they
Mhm.
know like I'm not going to stand them up, like I'm here. Um, then from there they're like, okay. Sometimes you'll know the room number beforehand. Sometimes they'll give it to you when you're there, but then you go up the elevator door, and yeah, I always kind of want to write like a book or something, because it's like it's the coolest thing, but it's like people probably wouldn't like get it, but like when you knock on that door and you see like this woman who is 6'3" barefoot, but then she's wearing 6-inch heels, so she's 6'9", and
Wow.
you know she's just like, hey, come on in, and we like hug and we have a great
Mhm.
talk like we're old friends. But like the visual, people probably be like, what the hell, like what's going on, you know, because she's in a bathing suit, like we're getting ready to like wrestle, but we talk, and if it's someone I never met before, we're kind of doing like the pleasantries. If it's a lot of times, a lot of people I see, I've kind of have talked to or like met with them before, so it's like catching up, like old friends, like how you doing, all this and that, what's it been like, what you've been up to. And some of the most real and intimate conversations I've had with people have been in that light. Like, and you know, you get started with like wrestling, you may take a break in there if you know, but like you have these conversations. A lot of times that's like the realest part of it, is
Okay.
connecting with someone, because for so long, like I know a lot of people, you didn't know anyone else who had this bond with you. So a lot of time, especially for me, the first time seeing somebody who I could talk to about this was when I met with a session wrestler.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I said this on another podcast I was a guest on. It's this woman, she's, you know, from Quebec, French Canadian. Met my first session wrestle, and she's like this, like, excuse me, 5 foot like two, curvy, and like wears bathing suits and like, you know, real attractive. And to me, especially when I first did it, I was like, well, yeah, you got to be confident, like, about your body to do that. And I remember we, like, wrestled around for a bit. We talked for a while, and then we're on the bed talking. And I was vulnerable about my, like, not liking, like, I had at that time very low self-esteem about how I looked.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, I feel the same way. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she was like, no, when I'm in this world, like, yeah, I feel attractive. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I love it. But everyday, like, life, like, yeah, I feel like an ugly duckling. And it was the
Wow.
first time, and it's happened many times since that, I don't know. When I'm vulnerable with a woman, there's a connection there, like in a friendship way, and that's cool. But a lot of times it's hard to have that romantic connection being vulnerable, at least for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it just is. And a lot of times the only experiences I've had with that have been in that regard where you can, I don't even have the words for it. You feel when there's an attraction growing that's not, because there can be attraction amongst friends. Like, hey, we bond as friends. That's like an attraction. Like, you're my kind of
Mm-hmm.
people to hang out. But there's like this romantic, sensual attraction through being vulnerable, through being like saying, yeah, a lot of times people had laughed at me because I was into this. I felt like, what's wrong with me? And they're saying the same thing. Like, people laughed at me for doing this because I didn't want to do a 9 to 5 job. I was not, it didn't fit me. It didn't fit my lifestyle. It didn't fit who I am. And we're connecting, and you feel that attraction. And it's like a really cool thing.
Absolutely. Just to answer Ryan's question, shout out to Adventures with Pictures. Now that now that I know what session wrestling is, would I try it? I don't say I would try it. I'm not saying I wouldn't. Like, if I'm with someone who's into it, sure, why not? But I wouldn't do it. Like, I don't know. So I guess
And I
if
may
my
not be the
person is
best
into
person
it,
to
yeah.
say it. I may not be the best person to explain. And I get, like, not everything's for everybody. Um, but it's a lot of times I tell people, I think I might have said it, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but it's like when you see a couple, like, who's play wrestling around, like, that's at a nutshell is what session wrestling is.
Hmm.
It's not serious wrestling, or it's not like WWE, like off the top rope and Stone Cold. It's not that. It's just like different holds, and like you're just close. You get that, like, close kind of like feeling with someone, and it's like a turn on. A lot of people are turned on also by strong women who are like in control. A lot of times, like, that's like the attraction for a lot of men in this too. Like, they're
Hmm.
attracted to, it could be physically, like with big muscles, or just that person who knows how to handle themselves. It could be physically with their height, a lot of times, but like it's different. But um, they're into a strong woman.
Wow. So some people are in here like that's dope. You know, they liking what they're hearing. So
Okay, cool.
that's amazing because and as I was saying to you on the episode, like kudos to you for standing in your truth because some people like people really go through life just miserable because they're into certain things and are afraid to tell their spouse or they're so afraid of what other people might think and they're like suffering inside. And I feel
Hmm.
like everyone should live in their truth, whether it's like whatever you're into. And then you should make sure that you're with somebody who's comfortable enough to accept the things that you're into because even like the story that you told about the guy that you know that who wore the high heels and it's like what a feeling it must be to have to hide that from the world and
Hmm.
then to get caught and it's like how do you explain that? So the fact that you're so open and vulnerable and all of that, I think that's amazing because it it's hard to be vulnerable with people, especially like in intimate settings. So
No, well, I appreciate it, and I want to also, that means a lot, and I want to make sure, like, people listening now from the episode, I don't want to sound like I always was there, and it's not. There's, progress is not like, my friend said this to me. It's not like linear. It's not just straight through. We go up, even though we're progressing, we're trying to get better. We have moments where we're going up and down with something too. So when I was like younger, and I'm in my 30s, I'm 32 in a couple of weeks. But like when I was in like even like early part of my 20s, like yeah, I struggled with it, and I struggled with it bad, and it took. I'll be honest, took like this like self. It took going to therapy, like to really feel comfortable expressing it. So I just want to say to people who are listening now, and I hope I didn't come across like I woke up like I had it. Like it took. I had to put in the work, and I struggled with it too, and it became that breaking point of I I just like it's not guaranteed, and I do want to be happy, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, I always say, as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting anyone else, go ahead, because I know the feeling of like feeling like strange and afraid to go on dates, because I'm like, well, it's going to come up, and what do I say? And then I'm like just imagining the faces and afraid to tell them like what I'm into. Like, so I understand that feeling too. Um,
Yeah.
I know, to me, it's worth it. All those things I went through, it's worth it to be on this side. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely understand, and I know it's not easy if you have that kink or fetish or whatever that you're into, and you're keeping it a secret from a partner or just from the world, or you're just trying to hide it. I know it's difficult. I do understand that.
Right. And then shout out to Robert Burnside. He said, wrestling with your partner, especially if you're not trying to hurt each other, it's cool. It's an opportunity to be vulnerable. Absolutely. Because you are at your most vulnerable, I feel like, when you're being intimate with someone.
And I'll say this: there's also like there's the oil wrestling, and there is like a thing like there is sex wrestling
Mm-hmm.
where it's like it's the like you could watch like videos and stuff of like people doing it where the point is like you're getting in these different like you're getting in these like on top of each other, but you're trying to make the person orgasm.
Okay.
So like it can be like it's not like about hurting, but like you're on top, and whoever comes first is the is weird, because like you didn't really lose, I
I was like,
guess.
who's the loser here?
You didn't lose, but then a lot of times if you come first, then like, and this is like for fun, but like you please like the partner who won, kind of thing.
Okay.
So like there's like places you can go, like Evolve Fights, where you see like they do that, but then couples do it too. It is very sensual. Um, I see
Ryan asked, yeah, he asked a very good question. Have you or your opponent ever been injured during a session?
no,
That's a good question. I didn't
yeah,
even ask you that on the episode.
yeah, very good question. No, it is no. A lot of time that's why competitive. Usually, most people don't do competitive unless it's like a session wrestler who's like a high level, like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu kind of person. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't do that because you don't want injuries. So like most times, like yeah, you're there to be safe and comfortable. You go over that. You go over if you're going into it and you say like you have like a bum shoulder, you tell that person, and vice versa. I've had session wrestlers tell me like their back's hurting, so they can't. It's like yeah, so no, you don't want anyone to be hurt, like injured in that way, like at all. So no, I've never had that happen.
So, is there some type of training or some type of what's the word I'm looking for? Waivers that need to be signed or anything like that?
No, honestly, as of right now, I've talked since doing the podcast after hour sessions for those listening. Um, shameless plug, but
Absolutely.
since doing the podcast, like talking about how we can progress, because that's kind of like I didn't plan on it, but like it's kind of helping like promote the community, and like a lot of ladies are coming on and being able to like tell their story and tell their background, their truth. But things like that are being discussed. But as of now, no, there's no waivers. It's just if you do something out of line, and most guys are good. Like there's always in anything you get those douchey guys or like some not so good session wrestlers. majority are been awesome. I've never had a bad experience doing this. As far as like the talking part, no one tried to rip me off or nothing like that. And like when we're together, everyone's been really cool. At minimum, I'm like, yeah, I could go have a cup of coffee with this person afterwards. A lot of times I do. There's been a few times where it's been a romantic connection, and that's happened too. So it's no, you're not really trying. It's not about getting hurt. That's why I like to let people know it's not like MMA. Like if you want to do that, you go to an MMA gym. This is not that.
Do the session wrestlers ever have like counter requests?
You mean like they'll ask that person, "Hey, can I do this?" Or
Yeah, like they are there to provide a service
right?
to you, but do they ever like in turn say, I want to do this or can we do this? Like do they ever initiate anything other than what they came there for?
Sometimes if a person is like new, like when I first started, I didn't really know what to. I knew a little bit from like a little bit of research. I knew what to ask. So sometimes they'll say like, okay, like they'll try to get a vibe in a person. A lot of times people are like, hey, I won't lie. I was excited, nervous, but very nervous those first few times because it was just like this whole, and it still is that feeling, but nowhere near as nervous. But it's a whole new world, and like, what am I going to expect? And I'm like, I have no idea what's on the other side of this hotel door.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're trying to like do role play or like a fantasy situation, things like that, it may be like you're throwing ideas out, and they'll like kind of help you create that scene. Um, or if you're new and you're kind of like, I just kind of want to try stuff, they'll like maybe like suggest and like try things, to kind of help you because you're trying to figure out what you like in a session. So otherwise, in that way, yeah. Requests are, just be on time, be clean, make sure you're clean and stuff like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're sober. So I've had like a beer before, but like you don't want to be high or drunk. They don't. Sometimes they say they don't want that.
Now what
Cleanliness is
about
important.
them? Can they be under the influence of something?
I've never. I'll say this, Danny. If they have been on the info, I've never noticed. No, never noticed. I mean,
Okay.
because you look at like a typical day for them, they're flying into a city from wherever they could be like from L.A. coming into New York, and from they're here from like Friday to Sunday for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they get in like Thursday night, that Friday morning, like it could be like people before work, so like from 7 a.m. till 11 o'clock or 10, whatever they cut it off at night, they have people coming. So like they're on the clock, and then you have to make sure, and that's why I give them credit. I try to let them know, like, I come in, say I'm coming in at 12, and I have an hour and a half, 1:30. They have to make me feel like, not make me, but like they make you feel like you're the only person who they're seeing all day. But then they have to be mindful of the clock. But then they
Mm-hmm.
know that because people leave reviews and stuff on like websites. Like people don't like if you're like like it's obvious you're like checking like the clock. Like they don't want that. Like
Right.
time watchers. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that you're giving that attention, but then still knowing what time it is, so that all right when this is done, because you have a schedule. Someone's coming at 2 o'clock. This person done. I'm done at 1:30. They'll offer for me like take that shower. They take a shower, like, and that goes on throughout that day. And then they're doing it the next day. And then you're trying to take a break. You got to schedule for like a lunch break for yourself, and all these different things. And then you had, and they don't know the city, so then sometimes they had to schedule like book like to rent a car or like to have whatever like the transport from the airport taking them to this hotel. There's a lot that goes into it. So um, I think it'd be hard. Who knows if they had like a glass of wine like yourself, maybe, but like to be like under the influence, I've never had that because it's hard. Like that's a full day.
Is there like a cap, like a maximum amount of hours you're allowed to be with the session wrestler?
No, because sometimes I don't have money like that, but like people will like say like, hey, like, because you can see on like certain on the websites, like so and so's coming to this city, coming to that city, and they may not be coming to your city, but people like will pay. They'll say, "I'll sponsor your trip out here," and they'll pay for him to come on out. And yeah, I've met with Dominatrix. She'll do overnight. I don't know session wrestlers do overnight, but I've met with people. Um, the day that I say I'm coming, they're like, my day's pretty free, and it wound up being we wrestled and then we hung out for a while afterwards because like their day that day wasn't booked as much as the other days of the trip. So
Mhm.
um, it kind of like depends, kind of depends. But there's not really necessarily like a cap time, as long as you have the money to pay for it.
Okay, so, but then I'm assuming anything after that, like coffee and stuff, is all optional, so they're not really on the clock. That's
Yeah,
just something. Okay.
yeah. So that's not. You can make that part of us. Like people do that. Like
Mhm.
but for me, no, I've never like made that part of my session to get a meal. Like when I've gotten meals with them, that's just too, like either they've actually paid for it or we've gone Dutch on it. Like it's just two people who enjoy each other getting a meal. But some people do that as that's part of what they offer because some guys are into watching women eat.
Mhm.
And I've been told stories of that. Like someone paid $300 for an hour for a session wrestler to lay on him and eat food.
Wow. Okay.
Or a session, someone told me a couple weeks ago, she's 6'3", and someone paid just to have her like hug him, stand up and like hug him for an hour. He was a shorter guy, so like they hugged and she got paid, and she was like, sure, of course, and like so you get different kinds of requests.
Wow. Okay. Have you had any not so pleasurable experiences, like with any of the session wrestlers that you booked?
No, I've had a not so great experience with the dominatrix once, but with
Mhm.
session wrestlers, it's been every time been a great experience.
Well, that's good.
Hmm.
Do you feel like if that was to happen, it would like kind of deter you from it, or you just like?
No, to deter me from that person, like I wouldn't want to go see that person again, but not from session wrestling. No, not from
Okay.
that. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. It's done
Wow.
too much for me. It's been a real, I ain't gonna put it up there with like my faith or like family, not like, but like it's been a real lifesaver and it's opened my eyes. And I've talked to the guy who will come on the podcast with me sometimes. We both have said it on air and off air. It's made us more empathetic people, and it's just made us better people and more understanding people. So even if I were to have a negative experience with a session wrestler, it wouldn't that's there's too much like that has changed me for the better for like that one person to ruin it. Nah, like I won't get into satisfaction.
Wow. Okay. I don't see any more questions. So, you guys have any other questions for either of us? Let me know. But yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. I learned a lot, and I know women who are into like who are what is it, doms that they,
Yeah,
they call
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And so I definitely told her. I said, "Well, I have an episode I want you to hear," and she enjoyed it. I gotta get her on the episode. She's wild,
Yeah,
but I think people would like her a lot.
for sure. No, I've met with dominatrixes too. Like I enjoy that. I've gone into dungeons and like you see on like the movie. Like I've been in there. Like oh okay. Like it's not scary or nothing. It's just interesting. At least how I
Hmm.
feel. But I've met with doms and stuff before. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's so that I think all that is really cool. I've gone to like because in Philly there's places called like the Kink Shop and Sexploratorium. They'll have like seminars on like bondage. I've seen people get like tied up and like it's really cool. I met with a dominatrix who did hypnosis, like orgasmic hypnosis. So it could
Wow.
hypnotize you and like make you have orgasms. Like
Oh,
I went to a class on it because I met with her, and then she said that she did it, and I was like, that's bullshit. You can't really do that. But I saw what she had her sub come, who I saw that night. Her sub went to the class too, and yeah, we were all in a class setting, and she made her orgasm. He did the whole hypnosis thing and got her relaxed and.
really?
Mm-hmm.
So there's endless things that can come out of this. Like it's not just cut and dry. It's not black and white. It's
For session wrestling and for like dom
Mhm.
stuff, no, there's endless things. Yeah, sometimes you just ask, but I try to make sure like let them know I respect those boundaries, and sometimes like, and I've been talking on the podcast like more and more about this because you feel nervous because it's like you don't see it on there, and you want them to know like this is not coming from a place of like disrespect. It's just like sometimes on the fly. Like I remember I met with this one session wrestler, and we were having a great time, and I was just like, would you be cool if we like hopped in the shower? And like I'm like, hey, I'll have on like my short, like no one let's be naked. You can be however you want to be. But she was already topless, and we got into the shower, and I had on like shorts, and she had on bottoms but like was topless, and we had like soap and played with the soap, and yeah, nothing came from it. Like after that, like it was still like respectful, but um I asked that in the moment, and like I was like, I hope she knows I'm not trying to be, and I would be okay. Like whoever she said, I'm not like, oh man, or like pissed off. It's just like just asking it. Same with like a lot of times I didn't see oil wrestling, and I'm like, I kind of want to try that, so I would just ask them. And sometimes I got like no, and I would say, okay, we can just do something else. That's fine. Sometimes you got yes, and it was crazy. There's people who they've been doing session wrestling for years. By the time they met me, and they were like, I've never done an oil wrestling session before. And I go, I'm your first? Like, that's crazy. So, yeah. I kind of want to do, my goal is to do a session in a hot tub and then in a pool. Like, I kind of want to do those.
Okay.
Like, those are like some bucket list ones.
Can you swim?
I can. I
Can.
can. I can. Yeah.
Okay. That's important.
I'm a
So
brother.
good to
I'm
know.
one brother who can swim. So.
Okay. Ryan said he's seen full frontal nudity wrestling before, and that was interesting. I can only imagine.
Yeah, if you go to like Evolve Fights, kink.com, you see like it's called like sex wrestling. They'll call it like sex fights. And
Hmm.
the goal is like you can like put people in holds and they may like tap, but also like you try like a lot of it and you want to have like the sexual stuff, so you're trying to make that person like orgasm.
Hmm. Wow. So can you is nudity something that you can request in your session?
No, usually no.
Okay.
Usually, at the most you'll see some offer like they'll be topless and you'll pay a little bit more. Oh, right on. Okay, yep. Evolve Fights. See, yep.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, there's Evolve Fights, and then Evolve Fights like lesbian like it's big fan. I'm trying to get the person who runs it on my podcast, Ariel X. We're trying to get her on there.
Okay. On
But
on an episode.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Because the
Nice.
guy who comes on sometimes, Hans, he's been on Evolve Fights. So
Okay. So for those who are unfamiliar with your podcast, explain to them what type of content you have.
sure, and I agree, Ryan. I agree, Daisy Ducati, her and Mistress Cara. Those are my two favorites too. So I'm with you on that one.
Oh, y'all got me about to do some research. Okay.
Hey, that's right. Oh, hey, it's Friday night. What else? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could be doing a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong, but you
What's
know,
up, Chris? Yeah, so what type of content do you have on your platform?
right? So for us, it's sometimes it'll be me, a few episodes of me and Hans, talking about just having a real conversation about session wrestling and how we got into it and what we like about it, different things, different stories and experiences. A lot of times it's session wrestlers or like dominatrix will come on, and it's just I look at it like this. I got into the pot for this podcast. I did it. It was like by happenstance. Like I didn't think I'd be doing it, but it was during the pandemic, and Hans had convinced. We talked on Instagram Live, and he was like, "You should do it." And I was like, "Okay."
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a goal going into it besides just like trying to make sure it's positive, something that's uplifting, nothing negative. Didn't want like drama or nothing. But what it's kind of evolved to and how I see it, it's content where I like to show, because a lot of times any kind of like sex workers, dominatrix, whatever, they're kind of like just that taboo and judgmental and like, ooh, like they're so bad and all this stuff. And I like to give that platform to show that A, no, they're just people like everybody else, and B, we should be talking about how courageous it is to not just do the norm and to go out of like what society tells you to do and to find your own truth. And
That's
so it's a
exactly what
platform.
I said on the episode, if
Yeah,
you
you know,
remember.
I do,
Mm-hmm.
I do. I like that. I like the title you gave it too. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it was good. I liked it. I liked it. And so like I like to just have, and we have dialogue just about their background. 'Cause everyone has a, that's what's cool about it. They all, you think like it's a similar, no, everyone has a different story of how they got, and a lot of times they're all such inspiring stories of people who were like, I was a teacher in a school district making like $24,000 a year. I
Mm-hmm.
was in this like marriage where I wasn't happy and I wanted to, and I kind of just like, and they're taking a chance, even in the story. Like I'll ask them on the show, like I know you must be an adventurous person, but still like you took this chance, and they were like, I just wanted, something was inside me to go take this adventure, and then I haven't looked back. And they talk about why they love it and what they get out of it is something that is they're taking care of people, which a lot of times it's opposite. People think like if you're a dom, like no, like if the dom is really a caretaker, you're taking
Mm-hmm.
care of that person. And so same with a session wrestler. So a lot of times they're putting in that energy, and they meet so many different people and they feel connected. And so many times also, Danny, and you're, tall girl Tuesday. So
Mm-hmm.
like women who were over 6 feet tall and always grew up tall and made fun of or made to feel a certain way because of their height. Just keep, and like it's like, no, these are stories that people should tell, and you shouldn't demonize people. You should really listen to it. And to me, I'll be honest, when I get inspired because it's that connection, and it's no different than, I mean, it's different in a way, but like what we're doing with podcasting, this is
Mm-hmm.
not like the quote unquote norm of trying, like we love doing it, but of trying to like maybe make a career out of it and maybe seeing it go. And people say, well, just do this 9 to 5 and don't take a chance. And it's like, no, I'm going to do something different.
Going through life miserable at that 9 to 5. Miserable.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you'll hear a lot of content about what different types of sessions there are, from dominatrix. I've had guys who are in the porn industry. I've had a doctor who wrote, because I didn't find out until I was in my 20s. I have ADHD, and didn't, I'll be honest, I was ignorant to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was very ignorant. I just thought like, all right, that's the way you see the little boys. They bounce up and down. They're hyper. But there was so much more that I found out about myself. And this doctor, Ari Tuckman, he wrote a book called ADHD After Dark. And it's about ADHD and, sex and ADHD and relationships, because it affects every part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool having him come on the podcast and being able to talk to him about ADHD and kink and fetish and dating and how to express that. And, 'cause a lot of times there's a connection with ADHD and people who are into like different kinks and fetishes. And he has, even in the book, like different like charts about like the successful like sexual relationships between two people, a man and a woman who have ADHD, what it's like if you have the man has ADHD and the woman doesn't, what it's like if the woman has ADHD and the man doesn't, or what it's like if both don't, like, and seeing like how like the romantic like connection or chemistry is between them. So it was cool having him on, and had Glenn King. He's in the AVN Porn Hall of Fame. That was a great episode. He was a guy working in like some kind of like financial like investor, making six figures, but was miserable, and then went out to like California and kind of got into the porn industry, and like you know, he's like has like his own, like he's a producer, but he has a podcast, and he's in the AVA. He's in the Porn Hall of Fame. He came on the show.
Wow. Speaking of porn, I do have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a porn category for session wrestling?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, if you went on like Pornhub or like Pornhub,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got on like they did that whole like purge a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look up like mixed wrestling, like Ryan talk about like Evolve fights, you'll see it on there. There's
Mm-hmm.
lift and carry, like different things. You'll see it in oil wrestling. Yeah, you can go on and see all kind of stuff.
Wow.
Face sitting is under that, so like face sitting. Yeah.
Face sitting, I'm assuming, is different than the face sitting that I'm thinking. It's not, or is it the same? Like, is that
I
a part
think
of
it's the
wrestling?
same. It's the
Huh?
same. It's the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think we're talking about the same thing, right? I'll let you say it. It's your
We are.
live. Yeah.
If we are, I'm pretty sure we are.
Yeah, but that's part. Yeah, that's part. That's in there because. It's not just exclusive to wrestling. Like you can do face sitting wherever, but yeah, a lot of times like session wrestlers dominate. They'll offer like face sitting. There's an art to it. I just talked to someone. My latest episode, we got into it about that. About like because she was a rookie, so she was like, I just kind of started doing face sitting. So I was like, is there an art to it, like a practice? Because I've seen some people who do it, they face it and they're twerking on it, and I'm like, whoa, that's like impressive. And then I'm also seeing some people. I've had it done to me where I'm like, you got to be careful. It's never been a bad thing, but I was thinking it like if you don't know what you're doing, you can really suffocate somebody too.
Mm-hmm.
So we get into the conversation there about it and how she started to learn more. So yeah, like so face sit is definitely a part of it. My last session was Mother's Day. I went to New York and had oil wrestling and had face sitting and all that stuff.
Lipstick Laundry podcast said, "Don't kill him." Exactly. Like, are there also
Absolutely.
like safe words or anything that need to be discussed ahead of time?
Yeah, a lot of times if you tap, or you could say a safe word, but yeah, you tap, or like for face sitting, it's the tapping with your foot, or with like tap their ass or tap like the thigh, but like where you're in regular session, you're on top, you'll tap, or you'll say whatever.
Jay, get on my nerves.
That's funny. I like that.
I'm ready to go, Lord. That's an interesting way to go out, I have to say. Because
I've seen like Alexis Texas, Sarah J. They've all done like face hitting like in their videos, so same kind of a thing.
Oh wow, okay, that's interesting. Did you guys have any more questions for either myself or D-Rock? Let us know, because we've been chatting for a while, so.
I don't know what time. I'm having a good time. I don't know what time it is.
Yeah, me too. But I think Instagram cut you off after a certain time, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
But you let me know if you wanted to keep it going. I would keep it. So let me ask you: were you always into? What led you? I've listened to your show, but what was it something brewing for a while for you to like do a podcast, and a podcast like this where like you're talking about open stuff like session wrestling and kink and stuff like that, or like did you just kind of like just say, hey, I'm going to do it?
So the podcast, or you mean like the actual variety of things that I discuss on the show?
Both,
Okay.
Both, because it's
So actually, Mind Triggers is in here. Shout out to Jay on everybody from the Mind Triggers podcast. I was on their show first, and I must say I had the top rated show of the year, right? Mind Triggers.
Oh.
So from there, it kind of gave me this like, okay, people like listen to what I'm saying. They find me interesting, which I don't see why, but I don't know.
Oh, I do.
I'm just so laid back and quiet. It's just like interesting. So I figured I would give it a try, and I was like, aside from that, people just something about my voice, the way my voice is, people find that sexy, I guess, whatever way you want to put it. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do with this. But I also know I'm someone who's very private and introverted. So I figured this is a way for me to just be more out there and put myself out there. And it's been quite rewarding. I consider it a variety show because, like, I have a whole bunch of different guests on. I had a lawyer, I have principals, I have a whole bunch of different people in different walks of life. And I think that's dope, but I don't stick to one type of, guest or one type of whatever category. Yeah. So I just thought it was important for me to just make sure I'm being authentic and make sure the people that I have on my platform are they have something to offer, or I feel like they have something that somebody might benefit from. So that's always top priority for me. Like, I know I have a guy coming up. We're going to record, and he's a 6'8" man trying to navigate through Korea. He wrote a comic book, and he wanted to be on the show. I said, absolutely.
That's cool.
So yeah, just people in different walks of life that I'm like quite intrigued by. Like, I don't just say yes to everybody who wants to come on. Like, you gotta be bringing something that I feel like I'm intrigued by, and I feel like my listeners would enjoy too.
Right.
So yeah, that's how it started.
No, it's cool because I do 2 podcasts, and I've done others in the past that didn't really. These are the 2. Well, another one went for like a year, but these 2 have gone the longest and like the best ones I've done. And I tell people all the time, like, this one is mostly me. Like, my friend Hans comes on, but not all the time. The other one I have a co-host. And I tell people, I go, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make this thing grow, or is this just for fun or shits and giggles? Because I'm like, it's totally different. I'm like, if you're just doing a podcast for fun, that's cool. But that's one different thing than if you're trying to like make it grow. Like, that takes work and like communication and really putting it in. So it's always cool to see someone else who, like, cause independent. Like, I've interned at a radio station. I've always thought like broadcasting was really cool, but like, it's cool to find. Cause I like the community. Like, when you start to grow it and you get that connection and community, like, it's really cool.
It is, and I'm somebody who's just naturally intrigued by people, what they're doing, what they're eating, what they're wearing. That's me. I always want to know. Like, I can just be on the phone with a person. They're like, "Oh, I went to eat," and I'm like, "Well, what did you have to eat?" Like, I always want to know. I don't think I'm nosy, but
You're curious.
I'm curious. I'm curious.
Yeah. It's funny. I heard the person who said it. You probably like, what? But like, it's true. Probably like 10 years ago, I saw like Regis Philbin be interviewed, and he said, because they're like, you've been on TV more than anybody else. What's your like secret? And he said, curiosity is a gift. And at first I was like, what? Like, I don't get it. But as time went on, I truly got it. Like, yeah, curiosity is a gift, and like, it should be cherished. So like, I think I'm a curious person too. I think to me, it's not a must, but if you do a podcast, especially a podcast that you interact, even if you're not, like, any kind of podcast, to me, like, it helps to be curious.
You have to have some level of curiosity, especially if you have guests on the show. If you're just sitting there talking about whatever you want to talk about, then that's different. But you're inviting other people into your space. Yeah, there has to be some level of curiosity for sure.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm that person. I just want to know everything about a person as much as I can, anyway.
So I have
Absolutely.
a question for you, and trust me, no offense. I feel like I can be, always respectful but candid. So now,
Okay.
if somebody you are interested in just like in a hookup way, or someone you're interested in dating,
Mhm.
and they bring this up to you, whether session wrestling, domination, we'll keep it to those two.
Mhm.
What do you think your response would be, in all honesty?
So, in all honesty, and I think we touched on this on the episode too, if it's something that I'm not into, by all means, if you're into it, go do your thing. Like, if that's what you need to be happy, and I'm not willing to provide that for you, by all means, go ahead and have your fun. Now, if they want it from me specifically, I don't know if I can offer that. So
Right.
we have to find some type of balance. Like, I'm giving you the green light to go ahead and have your fun, get your needs met. If that's not enough, then I really don't know. Like, would I be willing to do it for someone that I'm at least attempting to be with? Yeah, but if it's just somebody I'm running through, no,
Right.
not at all. Because I'm not giving that type of energy to somebody I'm not, I don't see myself being with. Absolutely not.
No, I got you.
Because at the end of the day, I feel like me and you not on that level, so you can go find that somewhere else.
No, it's
Mhm.
interesting. I think it's for me, 'cause I've been asked that even with people who I'm just like friends with benefits. If it's something that I'm curious about too, I never tried, then I would do it. Something that's like totally off, then it's like nah, like I can't.
Yeah, running through.
I,
I'm
I
just
saw that
saying,
too. I saw
Jay,
that too.
women run through men too. I'm just saying.
Very true. Very true.
Let's call a spade a spade. You getting ran through. It's like, but y'all know what I mean. But yeah, all summer. Y'all funny. But yeah, so I mean, I guess it's different levels to relationships. And like I was saying, I had a guy tell me, he told me he was a dom, and I was like, okay, thank you for telling me, and I appreciate that you felt open enough to tell me that's what you're into, but I just met you, so why do you feel like that's something you need to share with me before we've even spent time with each other? So
Right.
I just feel like right idea, wrong time. Just running me like the woman Jamaican track team. Shut up. If you have, I don't know if you ever checked out Mind Triggers podcast, but you should definitely check them out because they're crazy and funny and hilarious.
No, I'll give them a listen. I'm always
Yeah.
into trying out. I love. That's why I tell people it's not. Honestly, I try my best to. It's still weird. I'm not a promoter. I'm like you
Mhm.
said. I'm more like not liking the attention, but I love listening to podcasts too. So I always like to try. So I'll definitely give Mind Triggers a
Actually, all the
listen.
podcasts that are in here. Shout out to all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I mentioned Mind Triggers specifically because, like I said, that they're the reason why I have my start, and also because they talk about some interesting. They have some interesting guests on there.
Okay.
So I think you would be quite intrigued by their content for sure.
All right. No, for sure.
But did you guys have any other questions for us? Hey Casey, I didn't know you was in here. Any other questions for me or for D Rock, the man of the hour? Episode is doing very well. It's
Oh,
doing
cool.
very, very well. DMs have been interesting. Like I said, no, not one person, and I would tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you wouldn't mind if I was to tell you, but I would tell you if someone said anything negative, nothing like that.
No,
More
I
like they've been educated and they're like, okay, so I'm glad that I know what type of space this is, and
yeah, and
yeah, it's been good.
and I'd be down to hear it because to me, I always ask so I know if I'm just what mindset, if it's in a, hey, we're just going to talk and have a conversation, or people were like firing off comment and it's like, wait a minute now. Like, so it's like just knowing which way to come. But like, no, when you've had friends kind of do that to you and other people like you're talking to, like, so it wouldn't bother. Like, sadly, I think we're getting better as a society, but it's still a
Mm-hmm.
long way to go. And I'm grateful, like, that everyone who DM'd you and everyone who's on here
Mm-hmm.
has been positive, and that's all we can be, positive and open. But I don't ever expect anyone.
He gets on my nerves.
That's pretty funny. He's cracked me up. That's pretty funny. I don't expect anyone to everyone has a choice. So as long as people just are open and respectful, then I
Right.
appreciate it.
And that's what I said, like, and I've said it on several episodes. Like, we need to change the narrative of what is considered sexual norms, because everybody has their things that they like.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are more open and honest about it, and others are, like I said, miserable, going through life, wishing they could do the things that they really want to do, and they aren't. So we'll get there hopefully one day. Everybody should
Yeah.
be free, just sexually free. That's how I say it.
No,
Everybody should be free.
right before the pandemic hit, I was talking to this woman, and her thing was bondage, and like it was
Mhm.
like, oh, I've been tied up, but I don't know because she actually went to the same, not the same class, but like by the same like person who was like running it, and he does these tie ups that are like advanced and tricky. I mean, it looks cool as shit, but I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't tie you up. Like, I don't know. Like, I know basic shit. So I was like, but I was into like learning. I was used to like, yeah, I get tied up, but like I
Mhm.
was into learning how to like do the like tie like that and stuff. So like, yeah, it's. I'm also someone who's been just saying to people like, I've been asked different things that aren't my go to, but have been open to trying them too.
And that's good. That's good. It's all about being free and being happy, and doing what makes you happy.
I mean, because it's hard. Like we've seen this past year and some change, even before then, but definitely this past whatever 15 months is.
Mhm.
If you weren't awake for it, like now you are. Like it's hard. Like try to find that happiness and joy when you can. Like I don't know what my time is. Not to be morbid, but I know I'm not going to be sitting there going, "Damn, I wish I would have worked more at that desk job. Like, why didn't I
Mhm.
work more?" Or I'm not going to say, why didn't I like get a few more dollars than I already have? Like, it's but the connections, the experiences, the stories that you know, and not sitting there saying, I wish I would have tried it. I wish I should have spent more time with the people I cared about. I wish I would have not been so uptight and just been my true self.
Mhm. You like oil and cocoa butter and sugar cane? Asking for mind triggers research. That's a good question, Jane. For Lipstick Laundry Podcast. Good question. But yeah, absolutely. This pandemic has definitely shaped me into a different person. I started therapy in quarantine, and I started the podcast in the
Mm.
pandemic. So I'm just doing these things. I'm not the person who's just sitting around wishing I could do these things because I can do them, and it's like, why are you not doing them? So my mindset has changed since the pandemic. So I have to say, it's a blessing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of lessons are being learned and things are being taught within this time that we've been in this weird space in life that we're in. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
No, that's awesome. Like I go to therapy and so that's good. I'm proud of you. That's cool that you said that.
Hmm.
Like that you're in therapy. That's awesome. And yeah, I'll be honest. And forgive me. Cause you do so many podcasts. Sometimes you forget what you say. Where I um I always had told people like session wrestlers like
Hmm.
they should do for the past like 5-6 years, like they should do a podcast on like this kind of stuff. And they'd be like, I don't know if I have time, but yeah, that'd be great. And I was always saying like they should do it. And finally, like in the last summer, like it'll be a year next month. Someone said like you should do it, like you should do it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a great lesson. Like I was like me, I'm like why don't you do it? I'm like but like sometimes like this pandemic showed like stop saying oh someone else should do it, you do it.
Just do it.
Yeah,
Just
you do
yeah.
it. Like and people will help, or if you don't, that's okay. If it's not going to be perfect, like whenever I do a show, I start a pod, I tell myself, and then I have a co-host. I go, it's not going to be perfect, and if you stick with this, you'll hear episode 20, and you'll be like, compared to episode 1, you'll be like, ugh, you'll cringe at episode 1.
Yes.
I'm like, that's how it is. Like you stick with it. Like we're figuring it out. Um, we're the benefit of not being celebrities, so there's
Mm-hmm.
no pressure on us to have it mastered. I go, hell, even celebrities I've heard doing podcasts, like they sound like shit, some of them.
Right.
So I'm like, it's the beauty of it. Like you're not going to be perfect. You keep working at it, and you just keep expressing whatever you want to talk about. That truth, that passion, that hobby that you're into, you're expressing that. Like, and you'll
Right.
just keep working on it. But you're not going to be perfect. Like, there's no
Right.
perfect show, and you will just keep getting better. And guess what? You will, no matter, even if people tell you it's good. People told me for After Hours, like we had a great response, like right away. When I
Mm-hmm.
hear that now, it was end of July 2020. I go, ugh, like I can't hear, but like people said it was really good and it felt good, but I hear my voice and I'm like, I hate it. So like it's
That's what
it,
Jay
it
said. It took us a year to really get serious. Yeah. Sometimes but that consistency is what it keeps it going. Like somebody's gonna feel your vibe and catch your energy and appreciate what you decided to talk about.
yeah.
That's one thing I learned. So
The first podcast I did was back in 2013, and just had times of like being stagnant and not finding someone to do it. But the two I've done, like I'm doing now, like they're such a blessing. And the other one's about like classic sports. We connect the past to the present. And we signed up with a studio like last month, and it really we started January. We started our first episode was the day that Kobe Bryant died.
wow.
Like that was, and we found out together. Like I got done, and my dad texted me like Kobe died in a plane crash, and I'm with my co-host, and I'm like, I don't want to say he'll think my dad's crazy, like following all this other stuff. So then we go on, and we start looking at stuff, and like it obviously it was true, and that's the day that we started our podcast. But then like a month and some change, month and a half later, pandemic hit, and oh, thank you by the way, Jay. Yeah,
What's up, Dr. J?
it's a lot doing 2 podcasts, but it's also worth it. And I don't think the silver lining, the pandemic's been awful, and a lot of people have lost a lot of loved ones. But like a silver line, I don't think I would have given my all to doing both of them before the pandemic. I would have done just one. I probably wouldn't do After Hours. I wouldn't have done it. I would have said someone else should do it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that happened is from Kobe Bryant dying to then the pandemic, because you guys hear like those standards. People are like, and they're getting better at it now. But even back, cause I've been in the podcast since like '09. I first saw them, and people are like, well, they got to be like 45 minutes, and you got all these like rigid things. And I was like, I don't want to. Even back then, I'm like, why is it? I'm like, if the conversation is done at 45 minutes, great. Done at 15, great. We go an hour and a half. Who cares? It was good content. We ain't repeating ourselves. Like, let it go.
Right.
And we started off kind of like me, like the sports one. We were doing that because like people were saying, "Oh, like don't try to be too long." And we first episode we're kind of like rigid, and then probably April we kind of just one night we did a show and just let it rip, and it went like 2 hours, and then the anchor stopped, and we had to go do. We didn't even know anchor stopped at 2 hours. We went and did it again, and it felt great because we were just letting loose,
Mm-hmm.
and from then on, it just like it's been taking off pretty well, and I'm I'm really proud of it. I'm proud to do it.
As you should be. As you should be. Well, to wrap this up, I do want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure having you as a guest. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully there's an opportunity that comes up in the future where we can connect again and have another conversation.
Absolutely. No. Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking a chance. I saw you. I listened to the show, and I was following you on Twitter because I want to support. And when you put that tweet out about looking for guests, I'm like, why not? Let me throw it out there, and I'm like, let's see if she's open. So thank you for taking a chance on me and letting me, like you said, share my truth. And I always want to encourage and support other podcasters, especially one as talented as yourself. So thank you.
Thank you. So let the people know how they can find you before we go.
Okay, so it's After Hours Sessions. So After Hours Sessions, and you can find Twitter at Sessions After. On here, if you're on Instagram, Sessions After Pod, and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple, you can find After Hours Sessions. And it's just, we've had some I'm really proud of them. For a show that, I'll be honest, like, I didn't expect to be doing myself. It's been rewarding, and I think you'll see, like, in my opinion, from jump, it's been interesting conversation because a lot of people don't know this topic. But I will say, and not just, I'm my own toughest critic, and I'll be honest with you, if I'm like, nah, that one sucked, don't listen, skip it. But, like, I think as the show has gone on, it's gotten better with guests, and guests really opening up about their past and their journeys and what they love, and really, I think, knocking that stigma down about the people who love this, like myself, and the people who work in that industry, of that, like, nah, it's really, when it's done well, like, right, and people are honest about it, it's a beautiful thing. And so,
absolutely,
if you have time and you want to give us a listen, there's no real, like, some episodes have gone close to 2 hours, some are 50 minutes to an hour. It's just been great conversations, and different, and nobody is the same. So you think, like, oh, trust me, you're not hearing the same story. Like, it's a different story each time, and it's been a blessing to do it. So, After Hours Sessions.
Thank you for providing the content, and for 2 platforms at that. But thank you for everybody who came in. Thank you to you again, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
Talk to you soon.
All right now.
All righty. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.